SMU football schedule was released last night, and I gotta say, I am fired up about this because the Mustangs, if they're gonna be good, the nation is gonna find out about them and be aware of them real quick.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SMU here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. I'm Grayson Singleton, college football radio host in the South for over 3 years now, and now covering the Mustangs here for Locked On. Our episode today, by the way, is brought to you, by nobody. So let's go ahead and set up the show for today. Coming up on the show, SMU basketball is entering a stretch of days where they got a scheduling break. I'll talk to you about that. Plus, that break comes at a good time because the Mustangs are now entering maybe the most crucial stretch of this 2025-26 season. So we'll talk about that as well to close up the show. But football steals the spotlight here today in the middle of basketball season because the 2026 schedule has been publicized. It was publicized last night. And I'm going to tell you, it is exciting because the Mustangs are going to be heavily featured this year. So if SMU has a lot of success, it will not fly under the radar. From beginning all the way to the end, SMU is going to have highlight games that people are going to pay attention to. And it starts on opening night, on Labor Day, nationally televised. I do not believe there's going to be any other games going on. SMU likely will be ranked. I'm going to predict that SMU is going to be in the initial AP top 25, probably in the 20 to 24 range. And they're going to play a standalone game against Florida State. That will be a game with an enormous amount of eyeballs. So if you start off the season taking down Florida State at home, one of the premier historical programs in all of college football, if you start out winning that game, the nation will be on notice. But it goes even further than that with this schedule release for the Mustangs because you have games at Louisville on September the 19th. That'll be a game that people will pay attention to. Louisville could be ranked at that point in time. Virginia, we'll see what they do for an encore after finishing as the runner-up in the ACC. And then come November 7th, you have the game where James Franklin, a guy that won 80% of his games at Penn State, brings Virginia Tech to town. And that game to me is going to have all of the eyeballs on it. All of them. Because there's no reason that up until that point, SMU could not be undefeated. The Mustangs could be undefeated by the time Virginia Tech comes to town on November the 7th. Because your schedule up until that point is at Florida State. I said that was at home. That is at Florida State in Tallahassee, my mistake. But then you've got UC Davis, at Louisville, home for Missouri State and Boston College, your bye week, home for Virginia, which that's a really good stretch, by the way, and then home for Cal, at Syracuse, before you take on Virginia Tech. Somebody tell me why SMU can't be undefeated to that point. I'll wait. Now, am I saying SMU will be undefeated to that point? I don't know, but they certainly can be. But when you get to that November 7th game against Virginia Tech, I would surmise to say the eyes of a good portion of the country will be on that game, depending on the time slot and the other matchups that are going to be going on that day. Because you've got the mystique of James Franklin, a guy who took Penn State to the college football playoff, then was fired. Penn State falls off the rocker in 2025, and now here he is landing with the Hokies, a team that's trying to get back to its best days since Frank Beamer was the coach. That is going to be a game rife with storylines, rife with media coverage, and it's only one of about 3 or 4 that'll be like that because we've talked about Florida State and Louisville. obviously Virginia Tech. And then 2 weeks later, you've got the game against Notre Dame. So SMU's schedule here, even though there are difficult parts of it, they have the ability to be able to not only have success, but have success in front of everybody. And it starts on opening night on Labor Day when the Mustangs go to Tallahassee and take on Florida State. And it would feel a lot different. If SMU were to go 11-1 this year, it would feel a lot different than the 11-1 from 2024. And the reason it would feel a lot different, or if they had gone 11 in 2024, let me say that better. The reason it would feel a lot different is because at that point, SMU was kind of still transitioning into the Power Four. People didn't really take them seriously. Oh, look, there's this thing. Oh, SMU's, they're having success. It's all cool. Probably get beat by Clemson in the ACC championship game, which they did, but it didn't go like everybody else thought it was going to. But this year, if SMU were to go 11-1, number one, they'd undoubtedly be in the playoff, assuming they also won the ACC championship off of that, and maybe they wouldn't need to. But you would probably be in the college football playoff, but everybody would be aware of it, and they would know why it was happening. If the Mustangs have success this year, it would have been in front of a much higher count of eyes than it was back in 2024 because of how the TV schedule lines up. Florida State, again, I keep coming back to that, but I think Virginia has the possibility of being on a network not called the CW to where a lot more people would be aware of it. I think the Cal game, depending on how they are under their new coach, could potentially do that. Virginia Tech, I believe, certainly will, given that neither of the teams disappoint. And then the Notre Dame game will be a standalone game on NBC because of Notre Dame's television rights. So I love this schedule just in the sense that if you're SMU, you are now looking at a situation where this is where you've arrived. You have the respect of all the national brands and the distributors. Now all you got to do is go out and pay it off and have that type of success that you really, really need to have to really announce yourself. There is a chance that SMU ends up back in the playoff. And one last thing about the schedule, by the way, and we'll dissect the schedule more and more and more. We've got a long off season to do this. Believe me, we'll probably do it many, many times in terms of the schedule. But their September 26th all the way to Halloween weekend is, you could not get much better than that. I mean, look at this. September 26th, you're home for Missouri State, then you're home for Boston College, then you've got a bye, then you're home for Virginia, and then you're home for Cal before you leave and go to Syracuse. Like, that is from September 26th all the way to either October 30th or October 31st that you don't have to leave Dallas. I mean, Lord, that's highway robbery right there. Like, that is a very favorable schedule. And again, we'll talk more about that in more detail. But in terms of just what jumps out to me, like, unless I'm reading this wrong and getting cross-eyed or whatever, it doesn't look like SMU has to leave Dallas for the entire month of October. That is big time, because that is a whole other level of attrition and travel and fatigue that is going to be smoothed over more in SMU's favor if injuries and health were to become a concern again in 2026 as they were in 2025. But schedule has me fired up for the 2026 season. All right, coming up next here on Locked On SMU, SMU basketball also got a scheduling break. Y'all like what I did there? SMU basketball is in a good place right now, and I'll tell you why that is on the other side here on Locked On SMU on a Tuesday. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And we've been talking college sports. We've talked some NFL too with some of our ads as well. And man, I know you guys all watched that NFC Championship game and saw the show that Sam Darnold put on. Talk about moving the game forward and moving a career forward too. He has complete command of that offense. He has complete leadership of that team and respect from the locker room and buy-in into him. And he went out and balled, because whether it was delivering passes to JSN or a Cooper Kupp or even A.J. Barner, Jake Bobo had a touchdown, Sam Darnold is really moving the Seahawks forward. And quite frankly, I could pick them potentially to win the Super Bowl because of Sam Darnold and how he's playing. These plays remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court or the field, dialing into every detail, giving it that extra fire and that grit that says, I never quit. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reels, but what it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, welcome back to the show here on Locked On SMU. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen of the day. Again, I'm Grayson Singleton, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new here as well. Welcome, number one, if you are. And hey, by the way, make sure that you check out our Everydayer Club while you're at it as well. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, and I'll tell you what you get. Number one, you get this show in its audio version compatible with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, ad-free. That's right, no ad interruptions with the Everydayer Club. Talk about a game changer in your car or if you're in the gym as well. Plus, you will also get an invite to a members-only Discord server to hang out with other Locked On Everydayers, plus some of our hosts as well. So click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Everydayer Club. Again, $5 a month or $50 for the entire year. Okay, SMU men's basketball is in a really favorable stretch of their season. And this is going to build off of what we talked about yesterday. By the way, if you missed our episode yesterday, make sure you go back to our Monday episode where we talked about how SMU is just surviving through a tough stretch of the schedule. Well, now that they've gone 3-1 in those last 4 games since Boopie Miller came back from the flu, they're getting a scheduling break. This is their reward. Right now, they are on what is called a mini bye, because usually you play a midweek game and a Saturday game in college basketball. The mini bye is essentially you don't have a midweek game. And that's where SMU is right now. The Mustangs don't play again until the 31st, when they travel to Louisville to take on the Cardinals, who at the time I am recording this is down by 10 at the break to Duke on the road. So Louisville playing in a midweek game on a Monday night, and then they'll play again on Saturday when they welcome the Mustangs. And I got to say, this could not have come at a more perfect time for SMU. Give Boopie Miller more opportunity to recover from the flu. You also give the team just a reset and a time to rest. And again, every team gets this, but where it falls in your season and what you're doing can matter. Because the Mustangs, sure, they played fantastic in Winston-Salem, getting that win over Wake Forest on the road. But then you come back against Florida State. And look, pesky Florida State team, are they as bad as their record shows? Maybe not, but they're not a good team. But boy, can they figure out ways to hang around. And look, Miami would have loved to avoid that upset, but they didn't. SMU got the win. So you got to be happy about that. But this is a team right now that needs their captain to be at full strength if they want to go where they can go. And even though BJ Edwards has really stepped up, Jerron Pierre dropped 28 on Saturday, you still want to make sure that when you're playing these games, you are as fully loaded as possible. So there's the Boopie Miller element to all of that. But also, there's the element of Andy Enfield. And during this mini bye, where the Mustangs will not play a game for a full week, you as the head coach have the opportunity to be able to tweak some things that need adjusting. And there are things that need to be adjusted. Number one, their defense still is not good. They're not a good defensive team. They're not a good rebounding team, which the two kind of go hand in hand. But if they can figure something out, maybe it's scheme-wise defensively, maybe it's how they position themselves for rebounds. I know that's more of an elementary thing than something we should be talking about at the Power 4 college basketball level. I understand that, don't get me wrong. But if there are little tweaks here and there that you can make during this mini bye, I think it comes at a good time because all in all, you still won 3 of 4. And an ACC play, you're 4-3, and on the season, you're 15-5. So I think you're still in a good spot, and now you've got a mini bye where you're just tweaking. You're tweaking and getting healthy. You don't want to go into a mini bye where instead of getting healthy and tweaking, you are trying to completely rearrange things to try to salvage the regular season. That's not the position you want to be in. And believe me, there are teams around the country, including the team that I cover for my day job, Oklahoma, that would be doing just that if they had a mini bye falling at this particular moment in time. So getting yourself healthy, being able to tweak while still showing a lot of positive things and still winning games is so critical. Just the mindset and the vibes are totally different. Because imagine if this SMU team had dropped the game to Florida State. Imagine if Boopie Miller doesn't hit that half-court shot to beat Virginia Tech. You are looking at a team who at that point is 2-5 in ACC play, and the vibes aren't good. So at that point, everybody's scrambling, and everybody's pressing, and everybody's stressing about trying to find a way to get this thing back on the tracks. Instead, now, you're just saying, how can we pave a more smoother road for ourselves, even though the car is already efficiently going down the highway? How can we make this better? And that's a much better situation to be in than the alternative. So right now, you've still won games. Your captain hasn't, played particularly well ever since he was sick, and that's understandable. Your sidekicks have shown up. They're elevating themselves where they can be reliable, consistent twos. And then you just got your weakness of, can we figure out how to defend? Can we figure out how to just get a little bit better every single day and every single game on the defensive end? And to me, that's a solid position to be in. Because again, we are still only 20 games into the year. You have, through the end of the regular season, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have 11 regular season games to go. Hopefully, you will have 2 more with at least 1 ACC tournament win, maybe 2. I think this team can win 2 ACC tournament games, depending on how the matchups go and everything. I mean, if they end up facing Duke in the second round, okay, that's a different story. But this is a team, to me, that can win a tournament game or 2 in the conference tournament. So, at best, you're looking at an ACC tournament championship. But if we're just going to be realistic here of what I think this team can do, you got 13 games left until the NCAA tournament. And I believe this is a tournament team. But you got to gear up. Got to gear up for the stretch run. And you got to gear up, by the way, for the run ahead. Because SMU's schedule that is right around the corner is their most critical stretch yet this year with the way things are shaking out. I'll tell you why that is on the other side. We'll wrap up Locked On SMU with more basketball talk on the other side. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect with them online. They can handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every single possible deduction. All you got to do, upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a TurboTax local expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just make sure you file by February the 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, final segment here on Locked On SMU. Appreciate you guys for tapping in with us. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and also rate us, review us on the podcast side as well, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other major podcast distributors. Okay, so we talked about why the mini bye is so advantageous right now for SMU. But I'm going to tell you why on the other side of that mini bye, SMU has its most crucial stretch to date. And it may not seem like it given the opponents. You've got currently 20th ranked Louisville, who will be ranked 20th by the time the Mustangs travel up there to see them. But after that, you've got an NC State team that isn't ranked, but is pretty highly thought of. You got Pitt, you got Notre Dame, and then you're at Syracuse before you host Louisville. So the upcoming 5-game stretch, I think, is going to be very critical because I don't think SMU can mess up here. Now, if you drop the game to Louisville, that's one thing. If they drop that game, not a whole lot of people are going to be surprised. I don't think it's going to do much if you lose that game to the reputation of this SMU team this year. Maybe there will be more cries for people saying, well, SMU can't beat really good teams or stuff like that, even though they knocked off 12th ranked North Carolina. Like, that could be something that could arise, but I don't see a seismic shift in the way people think of SMU if you lose that game on the road to Louisville. But NC State, lo and behold, is 27th in the net. And Will Wade's team is pretty good. I've watched that team a couple of times this year. They're a pretty good team. Lengthy, versatile, can score the basketball. I like NC State. They're 1-4 in quad 1, but they're also 6-1 in quad 2. SMU, by the way, outside of quad 1 is unbeaten. 12-0 across the other 3 quads. They're 3-5 in quad 1, which gives me most of my hope that SMU is going to make the tournament. I think their resume right now is good enough to make the tournament and not even be on the bubble. But after that NC State game, you've got Pitt, who I believe is in the 100s of the net, Notre Dame, who is not good, and Syracuse, that even though they make a lot of headlines, also isn't really good. And a lot of those headlines obviously is because Kyan Anthony, Melo's son, plays for them, which, great. I mean, I like the kid a lot, but that's not a good team. You can't drop one of those games. Preferably, you would like to split the Louisville and NC State game, I think, because those will be undoubtedly quad 1 games. But the Pitt, Notre Dame, and Syracuse games, the Syracuse game, being on the road, you can't drop one of those games. That's why this stretch is so crucial. Because I told you that the prevailing sentiment around SMU would not fall if they lost the game to Louisville. If they lost one of those latter 3, at Pitt versus Notre Dame, at Syracuse, that's when people are going to start having questions. And look, you can lose games. You can lose games to teams that may not be as good as you because that's just how basketball works. I mean, anybody think LSU is better than SMU? I mean, right now, as it stands, LSU in the net is 43rd. So not a terrible team, but people think, and the analytics think, that you're better than LSU. And right now, they don't really have a loss like that would say, oh, you lost to a team that's decidedly worse than you. So that's good, but you don't want to put that on your resume. Basically, what I'm saying is that one of the best parts about SMU's season is that this team has been consistent at winning the games that it absolutely should. And that's a skill. That's absolutely a skill. That you can go in and we'll tussle, we'll go nip and tuck with teams that are as good as us or even better. I mean, just look at the dogfight they gave Duke without their best player. I mean, Clemson only beat them by 4. Virginia only beat SMU by 4. Vanderbilt blew them out. That's the outlier there. But if you can steal some games against teams that are better than you, that's great. But I think another mark of a good team, which I think SMU is a good team, is winning the games you are supposed to win. And all 3 of those games in the latter part of this next upcoming 5-game stretch, Pitt, Notre Dame, and Syracuse are games that SMU should win. Pitt is not very good. Notre Dame, you're getting them at home, and they're not great. I mean, the only time we've talked about Notre Dame in basketball terms is when their coach almost attacked a ref. Right? So, and then Syracuse just kind of doesn't have an identity and it just isn't good. So, all in all, in this upcoming stretch, if you can split one of those Louisville-NC State games, hell, if you can win them both, that's great. I mean, that's outstanding. That's 2 quad 1 wins right there. But up after those, you got to win those 3. You got to win those 3. Now, obviously, that would be barring injury or something like that. But Pitt, Notre Dame, and Syracuse got to win them. Got to win them. And that's why I'm so high on this mini bye being where it is for the Mustangs, because you've got a slate coming up where you're going to want to at least split, and then the next 3 you should win, and you got to win if you're the Mustangs to try to give yourself a more favorable opportunity to go deep in the ACC tournament and even win a couple of NCAA tournament games as well, because that's always matchup dependent, especially once you get to the second round. So that's why I look at this mini bye, like we talked about in our last segment, with a lot riding on it, because this upcoming stretch for SMU, to me, is their most critical to date. Now, we'll see how the rest of the schedule rounds out. We'll see what the rest of resumes and net rankings and all that stuff is going to look like as we go down the stretch of the season, but there's not a whole lot of marquee matchups left on the schedule, because after that 5-game stretch, you got one more game with Louisville, and then you got BC, Cal, Stanford, Miami, pretty good team, and Florida State. So not a whole lot left of national intrigue. So you got to make sure you take care of your business when you're supposed to take care of it, and make sure that your resume is all set when it doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of other resume enhancers left on the schedule. But we'll see how it goes up. But it is a good thing that SMU is not playing again until Saturday at the KFC Yum. Is that what it's still called? Is it still called the KFC Yum Center out there in Louisville? I believe so. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU here on this here Tuesday. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen of the day. And remember, if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On SMU ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and a lot more. Head to lockedonsmu.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes and the description to learn more. So for those of you on YouTube, you're going to our 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, those of you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you make Locked On College Football your second listen of the day. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow for a Wednesday show. Take it easy, everybody.